That is so fun. Oh my goodness. Man, I can't tell you how much I enjoy that. Dedicated to guitarist Tim Ellis. Rest in peace, man. Let me start this off first by thanking Five Star Guitars for being a huge support in the venture that is my All Access Live show. I wanted to make sure that anybody that's interested in playing guitar, getting guitars, getting lessons, having repairs done, can all get that done at Five Star Guitars in Beaverton. You can find them online at www.fivestarguitars.com and let Joff Metz, the owner, know that I sent you. Now, thank you so much, everyone, for joining in and getting a little bit of that introduction. That experience was one of my favorite things ever, dedicated to Tim Ellis, this virtuoso player. And I have known each other for 10, 15 years now. I've gotten to do countless gigs, and he's got more experiences than I could even begin to count. So I'm going to let him cover some of those. Please welcome my friend Aaron Meyer.
Can you see me?
I can see you and I can hear you. Yes, sir.
I don't know why I can't see you.
How's that? Any better?
I don't know what I've done.
Okay. Should be a little, if you can see a square where my video might normally be, you might be able to, are you on a computer or a phone?
I'm on a computer.
Okay. Upper right-hand side, there should be a speaker view versus gallery view. That might help you. You can toggle that and jump back over to, does that help?
I don't know.
Do you want?
I don't see.
Do you want?
Joining again?
Sure. Yeah. Go ahead and hop out, and I'll go ahead and share this information about my sponsor again. I'll talk a little bit more about our pairing.
Okay. Okay.
All right. So Aaron's going to be right back, and I am going to make sure that we have this this connection here to Facebook.
I see now. I'm sorry.
You got me?
Yeah, I'm illiterate.
Not a problem. Not a sweat. I want to make sure that we are actually live on Facebook. So it should have tagged you on your page as well. So you should be able to see it on your Facebook page. But if not, I'll archive it all. We'll put it up on YouTube and everybody can chime in afterwards. So let's get started a little bit by just talking about Aaron Meyer, your early history. I want to know what started this process of being a virtuoso a violinist. Early age, with the violin lessons at age 2 in the Suzuki method, being forced to do nothing but violin.
My dad is a violin teacher.
Really?
My dad is a classical violin teacher. So I was the lucky kid that had your teacher living in your house.
When you say
dad taught classical violin 6.5 days a week from our home.
Okay.
And so I just sort of grew up with it, you know. I mean, from my earliest memory, kids came in for their lesson and they'd go out. So I just assumed everyone played the violin.
Right.
And then, you know, I naturally wanted to do it. So when I was 5, my dad started me, and my dad taught only young basically beginners
Okay.
and some intermediates. But he really thrived at teaching young kids classical violin. So that was my world. And when I was 5, I got to go to one of my dad's um, students had won a competition, a children's competition, and the prize was she got to solo with the Philadelphia Orchestra.
Wow.
She was 11, I was 5.
Okay.
I got to go to this concert at the Academy of Music, which would be like the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall.
Sure.
And I watched this little girl come out to the edge of the stage, and she had over 100 musicians behind her, the Philadelphia Orchestra, a great orchestra.
Right.
And she played her solo, and I said, Dad, I want to do that.
Really?
And Dad says, okay. And after the concert, my father threw a party for the girl who had won the competition and sold with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And at that party, out came a cake in the shape of a violin.
Wow. So at 5, that's pretty much like the Academy Award coming
I
in
turned
here.
to my dad. I said, Dad, forget the concert. I want that cake. And my dad said, son, here's how it works.
Yeah.
You will win that competition. You will solo with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And when you do, I'll buy you your $12.99 vanilla ice cream chocolate violin cake.
Okay.
And I said, well, I knew exactly what I wanted in life. I wanted the violin cake. And nothing was going to stop me. So I started practicing. I did everything that he said. When I was 9, I was practicing 3 hours a day.
Okay.
I took the first audition when I was 9. I lost. I was very upset. I cried for about a week. Dad let me do that. And then he got me fired up again and said, son, eyes on the prize. I started practicing again.
Coming back on.
When I was 10, I auditioned again a second time. I won. When I was 11, I soloed with the Philadelphia Orchestra. And guess what?
At 11?
Yeah.
Okay. What? You got the cake.
The cake.
And then
I wanted to retire.
Yeah, right. Then it's over. At 11 retirement.
I achieved my goal.
You did not do that.
Yeah.
Okay. So what was the plan then? Did you have a desire to play basketball? And
then I wanted to play basketball. Yes.
Okay.
To play basketball. And so I didn't want to practice, but my dad said, well, that's not going to happen. You know, you've got the top teacher in Philadelphia who wants to teach you. And I was like, well, I really don't care. You know, I didn't want to play the violin anymore. It wasn't very cool.
At 11. So yeah, you're just starting to hit puberty, right? You saw that girl.
I'm in 6th grade. And, you know, I was able to slide through, you know, a bunch of classes. Like I was getting a C in social studies. And the teacher was like, it's okay. You're Aaron, the violinist.
Even then.
Oh yeah, I was sliding by. I was like, "You're going to be a violinist anyway. You know what does this matter?"
Right, social studies. You'll never have to interact with people. Yeah, and you grew up here in Portland, right?
Oh, Philadelphia.
Oh, you were in. Okay, I was thinking that Philadelphia was a byproduct of the competition. So, okay, different environment altogether, right? East Coast versus West is certainly different, but and so Dad grew up teaching students in Pennsylvania, like violin. Was he accomplished at a real sort of international or national level, or was he
player?
Yeah.
He was a good player, but he started really late in life and didn't have parents that were musically oriented or really involved in his music education. So he really did it all on his own. And he really found out his gift was teaching. So he did some playing, and he was a fabulous player, but really dedicated his life to teaching young kids. And he must have taught, you know, 2,000 or more kids the violin over 40 years. And literally he taught 6.5 days a week, all day, Monday through Saturday, and a half day on Sunday.
You know, it's interesting. I mean, you certainly have that same sort of work ethic, and the people that you've surrounded yourself with over time since you've been here also have that incredible work ethic, right? So mostly talking about people like Tim Ellis, you know, and we'll get to him shortly. I thought about this sort of move then to Portland. What was it about the West Coast that attracted you?
Mom and Dad, when we were young, were adamant about taking my sister and I around the country. You know, we did one family vacation a year.
Okay.
And, you know, when we were little, we did, you know, smaller stuff. But as we got older, we were a little bit more adventurous, and we would take a trip to Colorado or California. Now we never came to Oregon, but we spent time, in the Rockies and in California. And I love the big mountains. I love the nature, and um, I eventually did get back into practicing when I was in about 10th grade and got really serious about it. And I was only doing classical at that time. And then it was time to graduate high school. And, I was like, well, do I major in violin, and go for the classical thing? I was a little nervous because there's a lot of good classical violin players.
Sure.
And another thing my dad always told me, he said, don't go into music unless you can't live without it. I said,
Mm.
well, what does that mean? He goes, well, it's hard to make a living. So only really go into it if you really have to have it. It could be really hard to make a living. And, that kind of scares me a little bit.
Right. That's a
So anyway, I did start in university as a freshman in violin performance. I went to Indiana University.
okay.
I did 1 year there as a violin performance, like classical violin performance, the strict, full on. And then I'm surrounded by, a million other, really great, violinists. But you're in a university setting,
Right.
big school with the basketball team
Right.
and
The Hoosiers.
yeah, the Hoosiers, Bobby
Yeah.
Knight, all that stuff, which I didn't want to be at a strict conservatory. And after 1 year, I realized that, hey, I'm not sure this is for me. There's also a lot of really great players that are a lot better than me. And I did some gigging around. I was just like, I think I can keep this as a hobby. So I quit. And then I
Quit.
became a math major.
Really? Okay.
And then after a year and a half of that, I realized I didn't want to be in Indiana. I didn't think I really belonged there.
Sure.
And I took a semester off, looked for another school, and I found Lewis and Clark College, which is how I ended up in Oregon. I
Okay.
finished my junior and senior year there. Spent a year after that. I graduated from Lewis and Clark. Spent a year traveling around in Southeast Asia, which is how I got hooked on Thailand and that part of the world. And then I needed a place to go and something to do. So I went back to Oregon because that's where I had, most of my friends. And the only thing I really was qualified or knew how to do was play the violin, even though I took a 5-year hiatus.
Well, so you got your degree in performance or education in music?
I got my undergraduate degree in natural science, which
Natural
is like
science.
a general science degree.
Okay.
If you were going to be a doctor or a pre-med or something like that, that could be one degree
Okay.
that you could get. But with that degree, you can't really do anything. You need more schooling or a skill.
Sure. Just having the paper was really what you got through that point for. And
I was thinking about, well, maybe I'll be a doctor. I don't know. I was searching.
yeah, no, at that age, right? You're early 20s and but you had spent a vast majority of your life playing violin. Was the passion there at that point, or was it still just something that you thought, well, it's something I'm
Oh,
good
I loved
at?
it. I always loved performing, always loved music, always loved the violin. And I just needed to take a break and then sort of revisit it on my terms, which, eventually when it was like, okay, well, you graduated from college, my dad said, congratulations, son, you're a man now and you can pay your own bills. So
Yeah,
have fun,
right.
it's time. You need to figure out something to do. Well, I had saved money and went on this year-long trip as a backpacker in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
So I traveled for 10 and a half months, all through Thailand, Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam, Laos, southern China, a little bit in South Asia and Nepal, and a little bit in India, Bangladesh. But I got this experience. I'd never been to any of those places in my life. I didn't even know where they were before I went. But a
Really?
friend was going there and said, "You should come with." So I
Okay.
saved money and I went and did this, and it was a life-changing experience.
I was gonna
But
say,
after I did that, I came home and I needed to figure out, like, now what? So, I mean, the only real skill I had was, well, I do know how to play the violin. And through talking to a couple of people when I got back to Portland, someone said, well, my neighbor's looking for a violin teacher. I was like, well, I can teach this kid the violin. Well, all of a sudden I was making $25 for
right.
45 minutes worth of work. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. And then somebody said, oh, I need someone to play at my wedding. Well, I could show up with my violin and made $100 doing that,
Yeah.
versus working at a coffee cart making $15 an hour.
Each one of these has been recommendations from people. So you had a network of people that were kind of looking out for you and
Yeah,
some,
I just started, thinking like, well, what could I do? Well, yeah, I'll work at this little coffee cart and, get a little bit of money and figure out what I might want to do. Maybe I should go back to school. And then, they knew I played the violin, and all of a sudden, a couple of opportunities came up, and I was like, well, maybe I should try to just get a couple other gigs going on. And at least I can make, a few $100s a week pretty quickly,
yeah.
and that's extra money. And we'll see what happens. And someone said, oh, you need to call this guy. He's got this band called Pink Martini. His name's
Hmm.
Thomas Lauderdale. This was in October of 1996.
Wow.
So
Okay.
I
Way
had,
back at the beginning.
oh yeah, before they had ever left Portland to play a gig.
Right.
And they were working on the first album, and I had never worked in a recording studio before, and I had not really played with a non-classical band.
Sure.
For the one kid in high school who could play some Grateful Dead songs on his guitar.
Well, I was going to ask, when you grew up and you had that little phase, in your sophomore year that you quit playing, did you have other interests in music outside classical? So were you a rock guy? Because
I
I
became a Deadhead.
really, okay, that like following them, and as soon as you could
Yeah,
drive, were you following them to Dead shows? And
yeah, I saw 40 some concerts in like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years.
interesting. Okay, all right, all right. So you then you get on here to Portland. When I think of your musical tastes, I know that they're varied, and we've done a lot of gigs where you've done everything from Zeppelin tunes to the Queen stuff, and then some really great classical compositions that you've done, sort of a fusion of rock together. And
Kevin, you look a lot like that drummer that was in my Bohemian music video.
yeah, well, he had purple hair. That was the
Is that
difference.
you?
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, yeah. But I'm missing my purple hair, and that was so much fun. But
I think I saw you in the Multnomah Whiskey Library twirling.
that's right. Like very, very out of place with all your other sophisticated, eccentric friends. But it
You were
was
one of the stars of the show.
God, it was so much fun, man. What an honor to do that with you.
Yeah.
I but I think about your musical taste, and I got exposed to your rock side, right? So I wondered if you had like this deep-seated fascination
No,
with.
no.
Okay,
Honestly, I think the Grateful Dead was probably a rebellion to this whole classical world because it's the
okay,
antithesis. You know what I mean?
right, yeah. As far
Classical
as you can get,
music is, let's get the metronome out and we play like this, and everything is going to be perfect. And obviously, the Grateful Dead, are not that. And
right. I would
are
say so.
not that.
Right.
And it was truly free-form, chaos, and it was what it was. But my exposure to, let's say, classic rock or rock music really came from our friend Tim Ellis.
Yeah.
He told
Okay.
me all about that.
Well, okay. So you left off at Pink Martini. We'll get to Tim. Tell me about the Pink Martini days. So you hooked up with Thomas Lauderdale. They were
Well,
recorded.
I got the phone number and I called them up and I said, my name's Aaron Meyer. I'm a violinist. I live here in Portland and I play the violin. I was recommended that I call you. He said, what are you doing tonight? I said, nothing. And he said, we're having a rehearsal down at Clark Styles, studio. Could you come? I said, sure. He said, bring your violin. I came and I walked in and I didn't know anybody and it was intimidating. I'd never even been in a recording studio.
Right.
And I sat and watched their whole rehearsal. And then Thomas said, hey, tell me about yourself. And he said, could you play something for us?
You
And
didn't play Grateful Dead.
no,
Okay.
they didn't want to hear that. Shocking.
Right.
I did. Thomas is like, we're going on tour. No. He said, can you play something? So I heard Pepe sing the theme from Carmen, the opera. Da, 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 da. So I played that on my violin and, they're like, oh, that's nice. And then he said, did you have any music we could play together? And I whipped out this really cool, flashy, sort of Spanish-y violin piece. It was for violin and piano. Well, of course, Thomas just sight read through the whole thing.
Wow.
Really, really virtuosic and fun.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is cool. And he said, what are you doing in 5 days from now? I said, nothing. he said, well, we're playing a museum after hours. Well, I didn't know what that was. Um, and, and he figured a few things that I might be able to play on and said, I'll pay you $50. How'd you like it to come and play with us? I said, sure.
Yeah.
And, the place was packed.
Right.
And then there was like a stage with real sound equipment. I had not really done much like that at all.
Right.
But I was like, this is cool,
Yeah.
fun. And then it was through Pink Martini that I realized that one could come from a classical background, because Thomas had a very similar upbringing as I did, even though he played the piano, but he was in this very serious classical world.
Very regimented and
Regimented, but
yep.
had received this really intense classical training, which it's great training. It really teaches you to become a technician and master your instrument if you stick with it.
Sure.
So I observed that he had put together like this sort of little orchestra around himself, and it had all this sort of world influences and a lot of Latin and cocktail things, but there was a strong classical, sort of foundation or presence in the music. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then I watched him and how he would get gigs and network with people. And I just sort of, without really realizing that I was getting a little class on sort of, mini business, with Thomas Lauderdale, of how to book a gig or how to, get a gig. And I played on a couple. The timing was great because they were really finishing up that first album. So I played on a couple songs. I played on Que Sera Sera and did. I helped with some of the string arrangements.
Okay.
And then I played the violin solo on the Creek song, "Never on Sunday."
Right.
And the funniest part about that is 2 years ago when I was in Capri in Italy, I was standing in some silly, boutique because my wife dragged me in there. She was buying some clothes and that came on and I heard
Oh my,
myself playing. I was like, hey.
incredible. All across the world. Yeah. That is something about
Look how
that
much you
band.
paid for that.
Yeah. Do you still retain points? Yeah.
Okay, it was a great experience for me, and
Sure.
I will give Thomas Lauderdale a lot of credit for teaching me about a different approach to music and pulling in other styles. I didn't know you could do that. He taught me a lot about the business, sort of rough, how to get a gig, how to
Yeah.
contact a gig and network with people. And I'll give him credit for getting me back into playing music, because
Wow.
I would say that's what really got me going. And then I worked with them for about a year and a half, and then somebody saw me play at a Christmas party, a Pink Martini Christmas party. They hired Pink Martini, as a company did, to play at their Christmas party. And one of the ladies at the ballroom said, you need to meet my friend Michael Allen Harrison. You guys are going to be brothers. I was like,
Wow.
okay. I
That
don't
was
know.
the first recommendation. She said, you're going to be brothers,
Yes.
inseparable music partners.
She said, you need to meet Michael Allen Harrison. You two are brothers.
Wow.
And I said, okay. So she connected us, and I got a phone call from Michael saying, what are you doing on this particular date in August of 1997? Well, nothing. How would you like to come play with my band? We're playing out at Montanore Vineyards. I said, that'd be great. I would love to, but I don't have a car. And I understand that's kind of an hour or 45 minutes away from Portland. I don't have any way of getting there. So you'll have to come get me. He did. He came and picked me up.
That's the
Brought me to the
test.
gig. I had no idea what I was getting into. And that's where I met Israel Alano, Phil Baker, Julian Johnson, Tim Ellis.
The full band.
The whole band. And Michael said, I can't give you a ride home, but my guitarist will give you a ride home, which is when I was introduced to Tim Ellis. And he proceeded to grill me on the way home.
Oh my God.
What are you doing? What is your plan for your life?
And you were just young, impressionable, late teens?
Well, that was 23 years ago. So I'm 48 now. So I'd been 25.
Yeah. Wow. I can only say I wish there was a recording of that phone call or that car ride all the way home, because
Oh, me too. Yeah, I got grilled like he would grill his own children.
yeah,
What is
everybody would.
the plan? Yeah.
Everyone was his child, right? And that's the thing. He grilled us all that way. I was going to go back to the Pink Martini thing for a second because you said that you gave Thomas Lauderdale the credit for getting you back into music, and also, the type of education that you wouldn't get in a formal education for music, learning how to get the gig and book a gig and how to financially, sort of arrange payments and negotiate your cost, all the sort of things that aren't part of a scripted curriculum, right? But something else that Thomas had that I see that you have that sets you apart is this bravado. You've got this entertainment style to your playing that is really unique, and it really helps you stand out. Because there are plenty of violinists around, right, that could maybe front a group, but you're like this rock star violinist, right? They
Like
oh,
him.
like that guy, exactly, like the guy that comes strutting out of the limo in the videos, and you do it tongue in cheek, and I love the fact that you don't take yourself too seriously. But when I see you do the Christmas shows or when I see you do the big orchestral shows, you lead an ensemble with this bravado that is, you can't take your eyes off you. It really sells the show that much more because people are paying for a show. Otherwise, they could just listen to a record, right? But when they come to see something that, when they go to see Pink Martini, there's an assemblage of parts, right? I mean, Thomas Lauderdale for sure is this. He's the foundation behind it all, and he has so much personality when he plays. So gifted, and you can't take your eyes off him unless China and Storm are up there doing their thing, right? So um, they've got the perfect presentation to go along with the performance. And I see that you evolved, or that you developed that too. So do you think Thomas may have been an earlier part of that, or were you always a little bit more flamboyant in the way you present yourself on
I
stage?
would say I was more conservative, but I love to be on the stage. I love
Yeah,
to perform, and I always knew that when as a young performer, 8 years old, I've been performing since I was 6.
wow,
My father's recitals.
yeah,
But I always knew that there was always sort of like a magical place the music could take you to.
sure,
And I think all performers, that's why you get addicted to playing music, because there's that just like awesomeness that
yeah.
like, where is that place? It's like you will always want to get back there.
The goosebump
Um,
moments.
yeah.
Oh man,
I don't think I realized I was getting such a personal, private education from Thomas. It just sort of happened.
sure. Just
Um,
fed off
and
the
I saw
energy.
like, oh well, he's obviously getting the job done. He's somehow figured out to get people to hire, 11 musicians, to come play,
Right.
and I learned,
Yeah.
and um, I never learned that anywhere else. No one ever taught me, well, this is how you go get a gig, and these are some of the skills you might need to do that.
Sure.
And we all know that you can be as good as you want, but if you can't get a gig, then
You're playing by
you know,
yourself.
yes,
Yeah,
at home.
and we all know those amazing musicians that are kind of virtuosic in their basement, right? And they should be out on stage somewhere, but they didn't have that role model or that mentor that sort of helped them get on the way. And the fact that you put yourself out there is great. That you sort of found your way to, you had friends that referred you, but had you not shown up with the goods, then just, you could be practicing science or you could be shooting basketball right now, so um, it's a curse and a blessing, right? Because music right now, music performance as a career is on hold like all the rest of us. And so I talked a little bit to some of the people I had on conversations about their contingency plans or their plan Bs, what they're doing during the pandemic to either help sustain themselves or keep themselves from going crazy, and what's that like for you right now? What are you doing in your daytime besides like crying and sorrow for gigs being lost?
Well, I've been teaching more than ever
Through Zoom?
through Zoom,
Okay,
Skype, WhatsApp, any kind of video conference. And teaching that way is not new to me. I've been teaching like this for 8 years.
sure.
So I've had a lot of students that lived, in other states and other countries. So I'm used to teaching this way. I'm teaching more like this because, that's what's happening now. But even before the pandemic, I formed a little program in Burma, in Myanmar, the country to the west of Thailand. So I've
Yeah.
been traveling to that part of the world for 25 years, since 1995, on that trip after I graduated from college. And recently, in the last 10 years, I've gone to Burma every year since 2010. So I've been 11 years in a row. And I
Wow.
go to the same place. I fell in love with this little town called Napali Beach. It's in the southwest part of Burma.
Okay.
And it's on the Bay of Bengal. And it's just sort of like this great little town. And I made friends, and
Yeah.
I go back every year. And, every year I make more and more friends, and sort of my little network gets a little bit bigger. And I connected with a woman who started a private English speaking school 17 or 18 years ago. And 2 years ago, she asked if I would come play for the kids. Well, I love to go do that, especially in another country. And,
Yeah.
I'll go play for kids anywhere.
Yeah.
I do that a lot here, anywhere. I love
Yeah.
to play and work with young people. So they set up a presentation for the younger kids and then the older kids. And they were very intrigued. They'd never seen a violin before in their life. It was just kind of fun. They were adorable and interested, and we had a lot of fun. And I said to the director of the school, I said, "Hey, if I can find a way to bring some violins next year when I come back, because I'll be back. I come every January. How would you feel about hosting a classroom, and I'll work with
Wow.
the kids?" So I took the four violins and I hand carried them there.
How did you get and procure these violins?
It's amazing how the universe works.
Yeah.
Uh, a student of mine, an adult student of mine, said, "I found someone who you need to talk to. She's got a violin shop in Corvallis, and she does a lot with the school music community." And I ended up calling her, and she said, "Oh yeah, I've got these, half size and quarter size violins, and they're pretty decent, and they're $75." I said, $75? Normally they're like $4 or $5 or $600 for a
Right.
functioning, the case, the bow. And she said, "Oh, these are, whatever extra stock that this company didn't want, and I'd be happy to sell it to you." I said, "I'll take four."
Wow.
And I got them, and they were in total working condition. They weren't junk. I mean, they're,
Mhm.
basic violins,
Sure.
nothing fancy, but they work, and the strings and the pegs hold, and a kid can use it. So I hand carried them over there in a ski bag that someone had given me from Dakine, the ski company, or the
Uh-huh.
company Dakine out of Hood River, and I shoved the violins in there. So I had to explain to the immigration people, there weren't skis in there, they're violins. What? Anyway, I brought him there, and I went twice a day for an hour, in the morning, 1 hour in the morning, one in the afternoon, and I worked with the kids. And it was just like, it'll just be what it is. If
Yeah.
the kids like it and get it, great. If they hate it or it's just not working, then that's okay. It's an experiment.
Sure.
And then I was thinking, well, how am I going to sustain this? And I just thought, you know what? I'm just going to try Skype lessons, even though they're 13 and a half hours ahead of me. So I've got the time change, and English is a second language, but I'm going to try it. And sure enough, it is working. And I teach them every week, and they're doing phenomenal. I mean,
Wow.
they're all playing. They can all play. I had 16 students. The pandemic hit, so I'm down to 3 right now. But that'll change.
Yeah.
But my 3 students can all play an A major scale and an A major arpeggio, D major, G major. They're learning songs in the Suzuki book. I make videos. I send it to them. We have the class online.
Okay.
I write out their music, and they're reading and writing and playing the violin, and it's
Wow.
awesome. Yeah.
That I love your dedication to educating students and youth, not just in the US, but around the world. And I get the connection that you make overseas. It's something to me that is as important as actual performances themselves, the people that you meet. I went to Thailand for the first time last year for a couple weeks, and it blew my mind how beautiful the people were. initially I just met expats. I was brought over by, an American, and we went to expat locations. And then I dragged him along to an elephant sanctuary. And then I went and I hired a former monk to be my guide through the temples.
Yeah.
And he took me off the beaten path from the tourists to really get me, an understanding of the culture. Took a cooking class so that I could hopefully understand a little more about the cooking, the culinary parties that you have at your house. Um, but those people, I felt like I never want to lose track of them, and it's that way when I tour with Flock. We just, a lot of friends in Europe and Asia and Australia, and I they matter so much to me because you feel like everything transcends when you're talking about music, right? So you
Universal
can
language.
these kids in Burma, they really are getting the universal language that you teach. Were you brought into contact with them initially through expats and English speaking primary, or where is your language, are your language variations strong enough that you can go at each region and
No, no, they speak English.
yeah.
Yeah. Originally, I had made local friends in this town, and then I found out how important this English school was, because now she services 600 students at once,
Wow.
and the program is free to every student. This is
Amazing.
a lady from the UK who retired. She had a very rigorous corporate lifestyle, retired, was bored, went on a vacation with her husband, like the town, like I did, because it's a really cool place, and just said, I'm gonna do this for fun, and then rented a little shack and started just teaching kids, and that
Wow.
grew, and now it's this just thriving program. And I just tapped into what her infrastructure was. But they had a room, they have several classrooms, they have a real school, they have teachers, so it's a safe environment, and it's like a community center. And
Sure.
it's more than just a community center. They teach these kids like life skills. And then I just was so impressed with what I saw that I said, I love to work with kids. How cool would it be if we could pull this off? And honestly, I didn't think it would work. I thought, oh, we'll just lose momentum, or the time change, or the kid,
Sure.
whatever reason. And they are just totally into it, and I get energized just by teaching them, and they're so adorable.
I mean, there's a testament to everything about that. I mean, really, the gal that started the school, and also, a testament to the students for staying involved and interested. But it's a lot about you too, in the way that you communicate. I watch the way you can work with elementary age students, where attention spans are pretty much nil, and you find ways to engage. And I think one of your go-tos that I really love, and I hate to be a spoiler for some of those people that hadn't seen this yet, but when you've got young kids that they see a adult come out with a violin, and they think, oh, okay, here's the boring, like assembly. Exactly. And then you pull out the Darth Vader theme, and you
Oh
start
yeah,
going through the electric violin segments of showing them you're pretty much, Brian May on electric guitar coming out there with your flowing hair and your and your Star Wars skills, showing them, that there you go. Yes, take that ponytail out. Um, but you watch their eyes light up, and that those kids are affected from that point forward forever.
mm,
It's amazing that through Oregon Music Hall of Fame, and you started doing that partnership to do the Music Education Fund, where you bring music into the schools. um, I watched countless classes. My kids were part of that, right? So kids that were in there in elementary school, then through high school and college, even if they didn't want to spend their life performing music, their appreciation for music grew, and their understanding, and at least they were intrigued, and their curiosity was piqued enough that it will keep them engaged in thinking about other types of music that they might not have given a shot to.
absolutely.
It's it really, yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And it led to something that music programs, as and everybody knows, music programs are being wiped out across the country,
Yeah,
with budget cuts. And so to bring that into these schools that didn't have a dedicated music program was a really special thing. It was my favorite part of Oregon Music Hall of Fame. because he felt like this is making a difference. This is not just a recognition of Oregon artists that have made an impact, but this is inspiring students for the future. And I see you do that everywhere. You had a partnership with Tim Ellis too, that you would go in and you do recording projects. And so maybe take us back to the conversation you had with Tim, where he grilled you on your way home from the first Michael Allen Harrison gig, and talk about how that relationship developed and built itself into a true symbiotic family relationship. Is that cool?
Yeah.
All right.
Well, he asked me what my plan was, and I was like, well, I'm not sure what I'm going to do, but I think I'm going to be a school teacher. And he said, what? What? You're a violinist. You should, fine. If you want to be a school teacher, go do that. But I think you should be playing gigs, and, you could be doing recording sessions and, teaching violin and this and that, and just started listing. And then he explained to me what he did and how he did it. And he said, I play, most Friday and Saturday nights down at this Lebanese restaurant called Alamir with this other guitar player. And you should come down and listen to us and bring your violin. So I did what he said.
Wow.
I went down the next Friday night, and I took my violin, and I sat in on a couple songs with Jim Walker, our friend Jim, and
Jim
Ellis. And that led to a little partnership. We had a little band together for a couple of years. It was, I would say, the first band that I was, of my own, that or at least that I was, a part of. Because when I got my first gig where they wanted to, pay me real money. It was at a Big Martini gig, and someone said, "Well, you have a band, don't you, Aaron?" I was like, "Of course I do," and I did.
Yeah.
And I said, I knew in my mind, I said, "Well, that Tim Ellis guy can figure out the music. I'll get the gig."
Yeah.
And he'll figure out the music. So I said, "Tim, they want to pay us $1,000 for 2 hours. Well, I know you have a sound system, don't you?" "Yes." I said, "Well, couldn't I just play along with you and that other guitar guy?" He goes, "Yes." And that's how it started.
That's amazing. Yeah. So
And
it started with you impressing someone enough to be able to lie to them effectively. Okay, good. All right.
Yeah.
Listen up, kids. This is how it's done. But you have to,
yeah.
No, I mean, there's so much of that, but you had confidence for sure. And had you not had that experience with Tim, you may not have taken the gig, right? Because
I knew in the back of my mind that he would figure it out. I was able to tell that this guy has his act together.
Yeah.
And he's I was actually relying on his confidence.
Sure. Yeah.
Well, he'll figure it out.
He had more confidence
than it was
than
really
anyone.
then I saw what Tim was capable of doing, and I was like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
this guy's a musical genius. So when I learned about being able to do like the singing and songwriting program in schools, there's no way I could have done that on my own.
Sure.
But I knew Tim could figure it out. Well, if I could get the gig and get it all paid for, Tim can figure out how to do the music part.
Okay. So ladies and gentlemen, we're back live again right now with Aaron Meyer. We had a internet glitch, and so we're gonna do quick part 2. We're just finishing up this amazing story. If you missed the first part, Aaron had partnered up with Tim Ellis by a connection with Michael Allen Harrison, and he started doing these residencies with the Aaron Meyer band with Jim Walker in town. And so let's catch back up where he can share a little bit of his Tim Ellis experience.
Right. Okay. So where were we? We were. Oh yeah. So I had figured out how to get funding for Tim and I to go into schools and do singing and songwriting workshops, and I ended up applying for a grant. That first year, and we ended up getting the grant. It was like $30,000.
$30,000
out of the gate. Yeah, it was kind of lucky.
Was this the first time that you tried to do that kind of fundraising?
It was the first time I tried to do it. Now, there's a family connection.
Okay. All right.
But whatever. I mean, it was all legit. We had it organized. And before I partnered with Oregon Music Hall of Fame, I worked with the Portland Public Schools Foundation.
Okay.
Portland Schools Foundation. And they sponsored the program that I did. But, I was able to, fund the program. I knew what Tim needed to get paid. And I said, well, if he's going to get paid that, I want to get paid that.
Right. Well, you
And
brought the gig.
we had it all worked out, and it was, we loved working together with kids. And that I started to spend a lot of time with Tim, because we did 10 3-day, full day residences in Portland Public Schools. So that's
Wow.
30 days together in 1 year, all day.
Every year?
The first year we had that giant
That
30,000
grant. Okay.
grant, and then I think there may have been a stock market crash or something, and the endowment went down.
Okay.
So they gave us $10,000. So we still did like 4 or 5 the next year.
Beautiful.
But we did a lot of that together, and we played a bunch of gigs together. And Tim, he was always up for whatever. I mean, all
Right.
he wanted to do was, be able to make music, make a little bit of money while we're doing it. He was never greedy about how much he had to get paid.
Right.
He always wanted to make things work, and he obviously brought a lot to the table in terms of understanding audio and production and being professional and playing music and running a band. And I didn't know any of these things. I ended up taking a little hiatus from Tim for about 6 years, because I worked with another guy, a guy named Bill Lamb, for about 6 years.
Okay.
And then when it was time for me to just sort of take things to the next level in 2007, Tim was right there and available. Okay. And Tim and I formed a partnership, and we worked from 2008 until he passed away in 2016. And we played a lot of gigs.
Yeah.
We traveled to Southeast Asia 3 times together separately. We sold with the Bangkok Symphony Orchestra. We sold with the Oregon Symphony. We sold with the Bismarck Mandan Symphony Orchestra in North Dakota. We did countless artists in residence in summer camps. We did 7 full-length records together in 8 years.
Wow.
We traveled to lots of other countries. We became best friends.
Yeah.
And then, of course, when Tim, he taught me so much.
Yeah.
And he really elevated the level of everything that I was doing. And I just didn't know that it could be like this, or I didn't even have an understanding of all the things that he did for me until he was gone. And then I was like, oh man, Tim was my music director. I didn't realize he was that. I didn't even know what a music director was.
Right.
And then he was a great, guitar player who could play acoustic guitar and electric guitar equally. I thought, if you play the guitar, you can play both. And I've just learned that's not the case.
Right.
And then, just his, he would always play like what was appropriate, not like, let me show off and show everyone how many notes I can play. Because if he wanted to, he could do that.
He really could.
But he didn't do that ever. I would even notice, I was like, why aren't you playing more? And he said, well, Aaron, I don't really think this song calls for that.
Right.
And I realized that he truly had musical integrity. He put that above his own look at me. He wasn't that kind of guy. I just admired him for his professionalism. And even like when we would play the national anthem for the Portland Trailblazers, I know you caught a handful of those when we did it. We probably did it 25 times together.
Wow.
And every time he did it, he was very, very serious about it. Like, he would always remove his hat. He was very respectful. And I asked him, I said, why are you so serious about that? He goes, because I feel like it's an honor to play this song. We live in a great country. And I don't know, that just had an impression on me, and he goes, we live in a great country, and this is an important piece of music. And when you play it, you should be honorable and have integrity. And I was just like, I like this guy.
Yeah. For so many reasons, right? I one of the things that I think we're really blessed by is that Tim educated a lot of people, not just students in the guitar world, but everybody that he was surrounded by was affected by his work ethic and his intellect, his dignity, his decency, his energy. I've never seen someone with more energy in the music business ever in my life. When I first came to Portland in '94, Tim had his duet at that point with Craig Carruthers, and they were doing their gig together. And I remember meeting Tim, thinking, okay, this guy's really special. Both of them, actually, Craig and Tim.
Of course.
And I talked to him then, finding out that he had a whole softball team worth of children of his own, right? And I thought, how can he have all of these kids and be playing all these gigs and feeding them? How can he put food on the table for that many kids? And the way he could do it was by hustling more than anyone on the planet.
Yeah.
And he didn't hustle in a way that seemed like he was trying to navigate up the ladder. He was a hard working man. He was as blue collar as it came in terms of putting, boots to the ground and really working on it. And the influence he had on his kids was amazing. And you can see that in the documentary that Tiffany's worked on, This Is Tim, which hopefully everyone that hasn't seen it can see it soon on streaming platforms, because whether you knew Tim or not, it's an inspiring film about somebody that's impacted so many people.
And any musician in Portland, Oregon, that knew him or not, should see that documentary.
And even outside, because really what it represented was not just what he did, brought to the community, but what he brings to the industry, right? Because anybody in Anchorage or LA or Nashville could look at that and say, okay, that's a blueprint for somebody that knew how to work really, really hard and inspire people, and the entourage that he brought with him, when he took you under his wing and really made you sort of a franchise of him. I mean, because he would take these people and just help work them in this industry in a great way where he can inspire. I was a much better drummer because of Tim Ellis, because of the gigs that we did together. He pushed really hard. He had great constructive criticism. He never belittled you, but he jokingly made you feel like I could do better, right? And so he had this great group of people too. When he moved into his pairing with Jim Walker, of course, that was phenomenal. Yeah. He had this band of musicians that he would work with. You talked about Israel Ano early on with Michael Allen Harrison and the Brown Sisters. My God, world-class gospel singers right here in the Portland, Oregon area that just would meld with Tim's stuff. And JP Garau, JP, my God, as a phenomenal keyboardist, he also brought this air of eccentricity and professionalism and personality to his thing. And every one of those players really was, it's hard to imagine seeing an ensemble like that again, and have it be so influential and impacting. But there's a lot of gratitude on my end for sure. And I know for yours. I mean, you've really paid homage to Tim in a beautiful way, both the video for Bohemian Rhapsody, but somewhere out there, I know that we did a version of Don't Stop Believin'.
And that up on the tribute CD to Tim.
Really? Okay. And that's available now for purchase?
Oh yeah.
So we can go to the aaronmeyer.com website and pick that up. Okay.
Buy it all you want. Yeah.
I will pick one up actually. Yeah, I'll grab one right after we get done, but I want to make sure that people.
You played on that track.
Well, I wanted it to be, I really did want it to be an homage to Tim. And it's great that you recognize that and really show that spirit, that he provided you. You've had a lot of people that have been champions in your court too. I know your bride, really, Rachel, has been supportive and big in your development of your business too. So she shares a lot of Aaron Meyer with the rest of the world. And so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention how thankful I think the rest of the world is that she's as generous with you as she is.
So Renee's the best. I'm so thankful that I married Renee.
Yeah. So we got those accolades out of the way. You talked about studying and making education be part of the Zoom lessons be sort of your contingency plan. What now? Because you said that with Tim having passed, you recognized what he did for you. So tell me how your evolution has changed, or how do you see the next 5 years of Aaron Meyer's development going?
Well, one of the great things that Tim left me with is he left me with a team. He left me with an arsenal of people. You mentioned the Brown Sisters. I met them through Tim. Carl Smith plays percussion with me.
God, amazing.
I met him through Tim. Jean-Pierre Garau has been playing with me off and on since 1997. But when I formed the new Aaron Meyer band and Tim took over as the music director, JP, came into my band and has been with me since then, and really helped transition into this next, era. Dean Baskerville was the engineer that Tim selected to engineer my sessions starting in 2008, the very first record that Tim and I did together, The Journey, Not the Destination. And Dean has been there through every session, including the track you played on, the Don't Stop Believing, for the Hallelujah title, tribute to Tim Ellis record that we did in 2016. When I did my first full-length record after Hallelujah, which was a conglomeration of different artists around Portland contributing, it was a Christmas record called The 12 Days of Christmas in 2018. And Dean ended up producing and engineering and masterminding that record. And I realized that Dean is an equally gifted producer. He's a different person and a different producer, but he's equally gifted at producing. And he did that record. I thought it was phenomenal, and the same caliber, with the same kind of energy and the same kind of consideration for the music. And we've just formed this wonderful relationship as a team working on music. And then last year I wanted to do some new songs. We did a rock version of Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, the overture.
Wow.
And he said, I'd really like you to consider bringing on my friend Jeremy Burchett, who I like music with. So Jeremy also plays drums.
Great drummer.
He played drums on the 12 Days of Christmas and on all the stuff we did last year. And I'm now deferring to them to help me direct all of my music. They're now producing the music that we're going to move forward with this year.
Wow.
We formed just a great friendship. I like what they do, we're just launching into some new projects and ideas. And of course, it's gotten a little slowed down because of the pandemic. But we're going to record two tunes later this month.
Nice. Yeah. That's so good. I love the fact that you've been able to sort of adapt and shift and make sure that the music doesn't stop, even if it's not being played.
Yeah, it has to.
Yeah.
Yeah. But my main point here is Tim, even though he left this physical world, he didn't leave me without a team.
Yeah.
He didn't leave me without a team, and I'll always be thankful. And I play a lot of the music, like you remember the pirate song, The Bounty, that I played at for the kids presentations. When I play that song, because I play to a track, so Tim's guitar is in there, but I close my eyes and, he's right there with me,
Man.
And I know he's rooting for me. And he told, one of the last things he told his wife before he died was, don't let Aaron stop making music.
Thank goodness.
So I know he's looking out for me.
Yeah, he is.
And I'll always be thankful for Tim, and his spirit lives on.
What a gift he left, really, man. I mean, with so many people, but I do feel like a huge part of Tim is right there with you, and I feel honored to get to share some of that with the rest of the world right here. You're a phenomenal musician and an even more phenomenal human being. I admire and respect you so much, Aaron. I can't wait to play music with you again.
Yeah, well, I'll do it soon.
So I'm going to hop on aaronmeyer.com and make sure I get the Tribute to Tim record. Other people should too. I'll put a link to your website in the archive. I'll get both interviews fused together. You can get it at www.youtube.com/all access with Kevin Rankin. If anybody has any other questions, make sure you hit him up on his website or hit him on Facebook. And when this pandemic is over, you'll see him playing everywhere. This guy is ubiquitous around town. So I love you. I give my best to Renee, and dude, it's just good to see you.
If you didn't see Kevin clearly in the Bohemian Rhapsody music video, go back and watch it. In fact, Eric Newland and I, the music producer, or the videographer and the video producer for that music video, we talk about you all the time and how great you were in that.
Oh, thank you, man. That was a lot of fun. It really was an honor to have.
You added a lot.
Thank you. Eric is fantastic too. So we got a good team all the way around, buddy.
Yes. Yes.
All right. Well, go teach that lesson
Okay.
and stay healthy so that we can get you see you live soon. Okay.
You too. Thanks,
Thank you,
Kevin.
my friend. Take care. I'll
Bye
see you,
bye.
buddy.